introduction. After years of hosting this virtually, it is so good to be in this room and to see these smiling faces and just to feel this energy. It is amazing. And today is May 1st, so what a wonderful way to kick off the month of May. Today will be informative and provide insight into what our small businesses are experiencing and what is on the horizon. I am Sonovia Holt-Rab, the Director of the City of Austin's Economic Development Department, and I want to thank the Mayor, City Manager, Council members for their continued support of our department and our many programs and initiatives that support the backbone of Austin's economy, which is small business. I'd like to recognize to our council members in the audience, Councilmember Allison Alta and Vanessa Princess. Thank you both for being here. I would also like to recognize Assistant City Manager Veronica Brasenio. As the former director of the Small and Minority Business Resource Department and the Economic Development Department, she totally understands how important small businesses are to the Austin economy. I'd like to invite Veronica to say a few words.
Good morning. I am so happy to be here with you today. I was the Director of Economic Development prior to becoming an Assistant City Manager, and I have to say I missed out on this event because I became Director in August of 2019, and we all know what happened right after that. So welcome back in person. I'm happy to be here with you today in this capacity, and I'd also like to give a shout out to another department, our Small Minority Business Resources Department. I was also Director of that department. These two departments are your strong partnership in helping small businesses, which truly is the backbone of our Austin community, our Austin economy, and the reason why Austin is the awesome city it is. So I would like to thank our speakers today. We have a great panel ahead of you. A special thank you to Administrator Ted James for joining us this morning and providing an update on what is happening in the small business community. Thank you to Houghton Hay, a good friend of the city and always there for us when we need some help. So thank you, Houghton. I look forward to a robust conversation. We're kicking off Austin Small Business Week with more than 20 plus classes to assist small business owners with skills that will help you start, grow, and expand your business. The Economic Development Department's goal is to be inclusive and to support all of our business sectors with the tools and information needed to strengthen and grow their businesses. That is why every year the Economic Development Department observes Austin Small Business Week, whether virtually or in person. This week, the Small Business Division hosts classes and events to ensure small businesses receive the necessary skills to remain strong and grow. Austin small businesses, including creative professionals, cooperatives, and nonprofits, make our city a great place to work, live, and visit. So thank you all and enjoy this morning.
Thank you, AC and Brasenio. I want to thank our Small Business Division for coordinating this breakfast and panel discussion, as well as organizing this week's business training session. I want to thank our guest this morning, Sharon Zingwin, with Creative Catalyst. Sharon is a graphic recorder, and throughout the morning she will turn our words into visual representation of the state of small business in Boston. She did a phenomenal job with our retreat for our office, so you're going to be delighted. The final product will serve as a reminder to the Economic Development Department of our mission and purpose, and I cannot wait. The Economic Development Department celebrates Austin Small Business Week the first week in May, along with the Small Business Administration National Small Business Week. As Veronica said, this week we will have more than 20 sessions covering marketing, business plan writing, HR basics, lending, and starting a cooperative. We have it all for you this week, so tell your friends to visit our website at smallbizaustin.com. Let me say it again, smallbusinessaustin.com. And guess what? Free. Can someone say free? My goodness. Yes, that will help your bottom line. That's not an expense you have to incur, okay? We have great partners we work with daily who support the small business community. Our local chambers of commerce, I think we have represented here. Our ecosystem of nonprofits, I believe I saw SCORE in the room. Cooperatives, the Small Business Administration, county and state officials. Please stand to be recognized. BCL, all of our partners that help us out. Please stand. The last several years have shown us just how much we need to work together to bolster our small business community, remain vital for the Austin economy. Again, small businesses are the backbone of our mission and the city and the collective in this room. And we want to ensure that we provide resources to help them grow, thrive, and succeed. Now, I want to introduce our special guest this morning, Small Business Administration Region 6 Administrator Edward Ted James II. Ted was appointed by President Joe Biden to serve as a U.S. Small Business Administration's Regional Administrator for Region 6, South Central Region in December of 2021. In this position, Ted oversees the administration of SBA products, services in 10 district offices, one in Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and 6 in Texas. Administrator James' career started in the office of the Governor, Kathleen Blanco, as a policy advisor on housing and community development, and he dedicated himself to the revitalization and rebuilding of Louisiana in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina and Rita in 2005. Administrator James was elected in 2011 and served as Louisiana State Representative for over a decade. And if I may add, I think he's a Southernite.
That's right.
Yes. And I'm a rapper. We have some little rival.
I believe it.
Next, I would like to introduce our event moderator, Houghton Hay, who is a friend of the department and the city. Houghton Hay is the executive director of the historically underutilized business program for the University of Texas system, where he has worked since 2005. He has over 30 years of experience assisting small, minority, and women-owned businesses with accessing capital, bonding, and contracting opportunities. He is a former board member of the Greater Austin Black Chamber of Commerce, Austin Syntex chapter of the National Association of Black Accountants, and Texas Mezzanine Fund. Thank you both for joining us today, and we look forward to this conversation. And I'll turn it over to
you. So I thought we would start off with something light. I'm a Gold Rush. You're a Jaguar. We have a rider here. And so we have a representation of all the historical Black colleges and universities. But I'm from New Orleans. You're from Baton Rouge. And we have a lot of retail food outlets here. How many restaurant owners or caterers do we have? Raise your hand in the audience. All right. So here's my question for you. Do you make gumbo? And how do you make your roux? I know you're going to get your We need to know whether he makes his roux from scratch or buys his roux. This is very important in Louisiana.
All right, I feel like this is a setup because I already gave you some information. Well, number one, I'm allergic to seafood. So I don't really make gumbo because most folks tell me that chicken and sausage gumbo is nothing but soup. So the times that I have made gumbo, honestly, I love to boil turkey necks and neck bones. So I take the water from the turkey necks and neck bones, and then I use my roux. I kind of use the powder stuff at the store. So my gumbo is probably soup.
But seriously, let me say that I am a fan of the U.S. Small Business Administration. I remember working with the Houston District when I lived in Houston in the 1980s. But I do want to make it clear that when I say I've worked with them in the 1980s, I was in elementary school. But You were in the legislature in Louisiana.
That's correct.
And you made the transition to be the regional administrator for the U.S. Small Business Administration. So could you start off by telling us, what did you learn about the SBA that you didn't know when you were working in the state legislature, as a state legislature?
That's an excellent question. I think that before I get to that, I probably have to answer the why I made the transition. For me, and I have a really good friend who's in the audience, David here, who, when we worked in the legislature when he was in Louisiana, I spent a lot of time on issues that weren't about money, right? Social issues. I was chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee, so I did a lot in terms of police reform. I did a lot in terms of education, all these different things. And for me, I think that the most important thing that you can do to save a community is make sure the folks in that community have access to capital, right? So for me, the Constitution is going to kick me out next year anyway because we have term limits in Louisiana. So for me, the transition was about how do I fight for the same individuals, the same community in terms of capital access, right? But to the question, I learned something new about the SBA almost every single day. But for me, it is the work that we do to get small businesses ready for procurement opportunities. So I knew about the lending. In Louisiana, we are either awaiting a hurricane, just coming out of a hurricane, or in a hurricane. So I know the disaster piece of the SBA, but I work around getting small businesses ready to do procurement in the federal government is something that I did not know the SBA had a strong place.
So one of the things that is happening under the current administration is that you're looking for ways to make it easier for small businesses to access contracting opportunities. That category management and bundling of contracts has made it much, much more difficult for small businesses to get their foot in the door when it comes to contracting. But how are we going to grow small businesses if we make it more difficult for them by bundling contracts and making larger contracts? So what is the SBA doing, and what has the SBA recommended to make it easier for smaller businesses to access federal contracts?
I think that, it's one thing to pass the policy. And that's something that on this side for me, a decade as a policymaker and now having to implement the policy. And I think that sometimes, and I'll speak from my experience, and I know we have two policymakers in the room. For us, can you all hear me? What's going on?
No.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So there's one thing to put the policy on the paper. There's another thing to actually go into an agency to ensure that they have the tools to implement the policy, right? So to say we want to see more small businesses with procurement opportunities, that is a goal, aspirational. To make it happen, you have to do the things that you mentioned, change category management, force the federal agencies to unbundle the contracts, because that is a huge hindrance for a small business when agencies put all of these different requirements in the contract, right? So what we are doing, number one, and it was exciting, before I took the job, I saw that the president had signed an executive order. In the federal statute, the small disadvantaged business contracting goal is a mere 5%. President Biden said, I want us to get to 25% by the end of my first term. We are well on the way to do that because of changes to category management, because we have forced agencies to unbundle the contracts. And as an agency, I have one of our business opportunity specialists here. Eric works with small businesses to say, hey, here are all of the certifications that we have. Small disadvantaged business. For you women in the room, women-owned business. For you veterans in the room, veteran-owned businesses. Hubs on it, right? We have statutory goals in terms of contracting for small disadvantaged businesses, women-owned businesses, and hubs on 5%. We have never met the 5% hub zone requirement as an agency. So what we did, we initiated another policy where governors can petition the SBA to include a larger percentage of their state as a hub zone. In Region 6, Louisiana signed on last year in December, and your governor here in Texas expanded the hub zone footprint in February. So we are trying to expand the reach in order for us to meet that goal. And what we are doing, we're getting folks certified in business round tables, and we have contracting officers. We're putting them in the room so that the small business owners actually know who the purchasers are, right? And Eric, he works as a business opportunity specialist, so we provide like almost like a case, he's like a case manager for our small businesses, identifying the opportunities, helping them through our resource partners, the PTACs and all those different groups. If you don't have a capability statement, we're helping in that regard as well.
Yeah, too much to say here, we have to hear from
Do I need to start over?
All right, sounds good.
We talked about Hub Zone, and for those of us in Texas, we think of the Historically Large Business Program, which I run for the University of Texas system. And the history of that term actually came when there was a small minority business commission. Joshua Smith was the chairman of many years ago in the 1980s, and it was a term that was designed to sort of change the narrative of how minority businesses were looked at. But for a Hub Zone perspective, it's really a different definition. It's driven by income levels and based on geography. So why don't you define Hub Zone for our audience here?
I knew you were going to ask me that too. Right? And when I started to mention Hub Zone, I probably knew I shouldn't because I don't technically know the geographic requirements, but it's by census tract. It is by the median income in an area, and it is an area that has very little investment. But by the end of this time, I think Eric or Abby, one of the two SBA folks, will pull it up, so I'll be able to tell you specifically what those requirements are.
But in general, they were designed to help create jobs in communities that had low to moderate income communities in general.
You know, most people call them underserved or underrepresented. I call them underestimated because I think that but for a chance, but for an opportunity, those communities will thrive as well. So I don't use the term underrepresented, right?
Right.
I just don't.
So let's talk about the narrative, because the words you use are very important. And so what do you think the things that we should talk about when it comes to small business? Because small businesses are the backbone of the business, yet the press seems to go to major corporations, stocks, and bonds. So talk about the value of small business to this country, to the state, to this city.
You know, the administrator says that small businesses are the engines that make communities run. I agree. Small businesses make up, 2/3 of the jobs, 40% of the private workforce. We know that. And I think that, honestly, those, and I was one as well, we talk too much about recruiting the large corporation to our community, like the tax credits, all these different things we're willing to do to recruit someone from the outside to come and invest in our communities, when we should be investing in the small businesses right here in Austin, right? Also, I think that we do ourselves a disservice in just the narrative from the folks that are elected, appointed, anointed to make the decisions, right? We're seeing a small business boom here in the state of Texas. Last year, 468,000 new small business applications. That's 39,000 a month, right? So you don't see that many large corporations flocking to any area. So by numbers, we should be doing more to invest in the small business community. But it starts, number one, with changing the narrative, right? And then number two, recognizing the numbers. And the numbers are here. Like we are seeing across the country, 10.5 million new small business applications in the first 2 years of this administration. So I don't see it as happenstance. I see it as we are changing our thought process. And when we go to schools, when I graduated high school, it was go to college and go get a job, right? Now we are the employer mindset versus the employee mindset, and we have to change policies, narratives, culture in order to keep up with that, because we're seeing it across the country.
So you talked about the efforts to increase procurement with small businesses on federal contracting opportunities. What is the role of the San Antonio District Office, U.S. Small Business Administration? San Antonio District Office actually serves the Austin community. How can the San Antonio District Office help small businesses in this room to access procurement opportunities?
We offer courses, number one, educating the small business community on the certifications that are out there, right? You mentioned that the large corporation, we focus on the wrong type of CEO, right? At the SBA, we focus on the chief everything officer. And the chief everything officer doesn't have a business development person, right? They don't have a person that is out there looking for opportunity. So we serve as the chief everything officer. Number one, here are the certifications. Here are the requirements. We also go into communities and we host Get Certified days where we will work with a small business to say, hey, one group is going to tell you what you need. We are going to actually work with you to complete the certifications. I know how burdensome it is, right? You know, state DOT has certifications, the SBA has certifications. A lot of these large corporations that small businesses want to do business with, they have certifications, right? So it's cumbersome. The SBA, through our resource partners, through our district office, we can help you in that regard. In our 8A business development program, in my opinion, it is the best program in government, period, not just at the SBA, because businesses in the program get the opportunity of sole source contracts with the federal government, right? So with the president saying, do more, spend more with small businesses, the 8A program is the program because the firms in our program, they are vetted. This is not a program where you can just say, hey, I want to be an 8A firm and you get the certification. No. Like, it is a very competitive program. You have to show that you've done work. And in this program, the federal procurement officers, they give opportunities in that small group of 8A firms. And that's what Eric does, right? So he works with those firms, and we don't just say, hey, get the certification and think you're gonna find a guy that sold Jack the Beanstalk beans, right? We make sure that you know how to bid, we educate you on opportunities, and then as regional administrator, when I see a contracting officer who is not granting those 8A opportunities, I go knocking at the door nicely, then I go kick it down if they're still not answering. So we really push them to give those firms an opportunity.
So we talk about 8A program. How many of you here, if you heard of 8A, raise your hand? Okay, so the program's been around maybe 50-something years, 60 years, a program. It may be the only program that's actually set aside, right? It can be a set aside where you literally, if you're 8A certified, federal government designation, there are criteria you have to meet. And I agree, the beauty of the SBA, and I'm gonna put on my SBA fan hat right now, the beauty of the SBA, I remember working with the 8A program and when I lived in the Dallas area in 1998, 1999, the 8A people working in the 8A program will hold your hand through the process. Literally will hold your hand. And I think, as you said earlier, the important thing is the 8A program is not a giveaway program. You have to have a business plan, you have to provide financials. I think, do you have to provide audited financials too after a while if you're at 8A?
Almost definitely.
So they make sure that the business is actually qualified to do the work, but the SBA staff will help walk you through the process of getting 8A certified, which doesn't take a week.
Yeah.
It may take a few months.
We literally have public service at the SBA that will say, share your screen with you, right? And we will walk you through the process because we are so intentional about it, right? You know, there's no secret that the 8A program, while it is my favorite program, a lot of folks don't like competition, right? And a lot of folks don't think that we should provide those opportunities to minority-owned businesses. So the program is in constant battle for existence because there are folks that challenge the program. Here, last year we were showing a statistic all across the country. We were looking at the small disadvantaged business contracting opportunities. So in every congressional district, 435 districts, 50% of the contracts were in 35 congressional districts. Like, that is a huge problem. The benefit for you all, one of them was this area, right? You know, like the San Antonio district office, they have they play a huge role in the level of contracting opportunity. So for us, we are really intentional about how we amplify that program. With the 1.3 trillion infrastructure program, it is so important for us to make sure that businesses are ready. I represent 4 other states. I'm pretty sure that you all don't want the Louisiana, Arkansas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma firms coming here to do work in Austin. So we have to be more intentional about identifying those firms that may be doing work with the city that can do work with the state and federal government. One of the other things that we're doing, we are partnering with the national DOT to try to have some reciprocity between our small disadvantaged firms, our 8A firms, and DBE firms to minimize the level of work that the small businesses have to do to obtain multiple certifications.
So I saw we had a representative from the Texas State Small Business Development Center here, Joe. And I want you to talk about the role of the Small Business Development Center in helping small businesses. How can they take advantage of those services here in this room?
Yeah, I heard one of my favorite words earlier, free, right? That's the best thing I can say. The free counseling, right? You go there with your idea. You want to start a business, you want to grow a business. The Small Business Development Centers are there to help you. Business plans, right? They can also help you identify SBA lenders, right? They have relationships with our lenders. We have implemented new lending criteria in the SBA, recognizing that when I was here last year, I talked about, for me, we have seen a reduction in the number of loans under $150,000 to 30% over the past 7 years. We have changed the rules to try to help in that regard, and some folks don't like it, right? A lot of the folks talk about competition is good until you are the one that have to compete, right? So there are some lenders out there that don't like the rule changes. I am more excited about the opportunities than worried about the complaints of some lenders, right? Because if they were issuing those small dollar loans, we wouldn't have to change the rules. So we're changing the rules because when we look at business owners of color, 40% of individuals of color that sought capital in 2022 either didn't get what they asked for or didn't get anything. All right, so we are duty bound to change the rules to address the problem. And the problem is access to capital in those underestimated communities.
So we're going to have time for one more question that I'm going to have for you. So one of the most exciting things that happened with the U.S. Small Business Administration is allowing nonprofit lenders to take advantage of the SBA guarantee. Now, I understand that has now been made a permanent part of the program.
Yes, so Community Advantage was a pilot program. One of the things that I am forced to do is go and try to recruit community. I think we have a Community Advantage lender here. I met with a Community Advantage lender when I was here a few months ago. We have now opened it up, right? So we were small business lending companies, and we only had 14 licenses, right? We have removed that cap. The agency is not going out trying to recruit 20, right? I think that the administrator wants to look at 4 to see how those things work, right? There are safeguards in place. There's a lot of talk about, fear about opening up to nonprofits. We have, safeguards. There are a lot of PPP fears. We feel like we have the safeguards in place because this program has been a pilot program under the Obama administration. It went dormant under the last administration. We brought it back. But one of the fears that I heard when I tried to recruit Community Advantage lenders and those nonprofit lenders that are duty bound and intentional about investing in underestimated communities, because it's a pilot program, they weren't excited about it because there was no permanence. So now we have permanence in the program.
So I was told we have time for one more question. So, how has the SBA modernized credit and underwriting standards to make it easier for small businesses to get loans?
In my opinion, the new rules that have been enacted, there are some folks that are credit worthy, but not SBA credit worthy, right? So we have allowed through these new rules lenders to use the same criteria that they use for similar sized loans for non-SBA, now for SBA, right? So this is not just some pie in the sky where we're saying go create something, right? So the same things that you use for non-SBA loans that are similarly sized, you can do those for SBA loans now. So there are some folks that, don't have the traditional credit, right? You don't have a mortgage, right? But you have been current on your rent for 2 years, right? You current on your cell phone bill. Now lenders with the new rules can look at those things, and we know those things typically hit people of color, right? Underestimated communities. So again, there are so many phrases and buzzwords about equity and inclusion. We are intentional about putting it into the policy, right? Recognizing that we are, in my opinion, and the opinion of the president and administrator, we are duty bound to ensure that everyone has access to capital. Help is no longer on the way, people. Like, help is here, right?
Well, we're out of time, but I want to make sure that since we have representatives from the San Antonio District Office of the SBA here, will you please stand?
We also have San Antonio and we have Houston.
Oh, and the Houston District Office.
Eric is San Antonio and Abigail, she's the Houston individual office, and she's our acting regional communications director. Hopefully the acting title, we can kick that out, and get her a full time. I am probably gonna get fired for saying that. I like my good government job, right? But Abby and Eric are here, and they are, just amazing public servants that you all have at your disposal.
All right, so my challenge to the audience is to make sure that Eric and Abby walk out with 0 business cards left. All right, Administrator James, thank you very much. This has been very informative. Thank you.
Thank you both. I like that term, chief of everything, and underestimated. I'm changing my language. I'm changing the way I speak. Thank you, Houghton and Ted, for this great conversation.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick off this panel discussion by introducing the panelists. For those of you who just joined us, I'm Houghton Hay, Executive Director of the University of Texas System Office of Hub Programs. And to my immediate right is Edward Ted James, SBA Regional Administrator. He was introduced earlier, so I don't think he needs to be introduced again. To his right, wait, how many people were not here when he was introduced? Raise your hand. 1, 2, all right. Mr. James was appointed by President Joe Biden to serve. I'm trying to satisfy the crowd, right? All right, so to his immediate right is Rosa Rios Valdez, Chief Executive Officer at BCL of Texas. A graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, Rosa came to Texas when her father was hired as a presero to work the farm fields of Uvalde. She attended the university in the 1970s when minority enrollment was less than 4,000 students and received her degree in 3 years, graduating cum laude. Rosa has worked for over 30 years in economic development and is certified in development finance by the National Development Council of New York. She began her career at the Austin Minority Economic Development Corporation, followed by the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and served 10 years with the Lower Colorado River Authority Community and Economic Development Team. Working at the LCRA, she co-founded the nonprofit economic development firm Business and Community Lenders of Texas, where she has served as CEO since 1997. She has expanded the scope and size of BCL Texas from offering only one business loan product in Central Texas to a statewide community development financial institution whose diverse product mix now includes business, consumer, mortgage, and community facility loans. Next to her, a hand. Let's give her a hand. Next to Rosa is Kristen Fields, CEO and founder of Panadas. Can you say that? Can you always say that? Panadas. Right. With a formal background in the creative arts, Kristen Fields' unique background has led her to a once seemingly unlikely career in the food industry. How do you make your roux, Kristen?
From scratch.
Along with her partner in life, love and business, and coupled with a belief in the creative process, Kristen has grown her business, Panadas, from a late-night Austin food truck to a widely distributed frozen consumer packaged good product distributed in over 400 stores across the U.S. In 2018, Panadas was the grand prize winner in HEB's Primo Picked Quest for Texas Best Annual Competition. And next to her is Shasi Wilson, Senior Vice President of SBA Lending at American Bank of Commerce. She has worked in commercial lending for 20 years, including managing SBA Lending Department at American Bank of Commerce for the last 11 years. In between banking stints, she owned her own financial consulting business for 21 years, working with small business owners on business plans, projections, and SBA package preparation, as well as arranging financing. She specializes in working closely with small business owners to realistically assess their cash flow capabilities and needs, and to align those with the proper bank financing, SBA programs that will help them flourish. Shasi Wilson. So I'm going to ask the question that I think has been bandied about for the past year or two. Everyone keeps thinking
there's going to be a recession. And that's been on the list, so Texas and Austin is doing very well. But the question still becomes, as any small business owner will tell you, being prepared, even if it doesn't come, when they have those forecasts of hail. How many remember the hail forecast? And we didn't get hail. And we didn't get hail. But then we got hail. So I'm going to start off to the far right with Shasta Wilson and work my way back across this way. How do you prepare for a recession? Starting with Shasta.
Can you hear me? Is that good? Okay.
Can you take that?
So, yeah, okay. Is that good? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not a small business owner anymore, although I was for 21 years, but, and that wasn't quite the same as what all of y'all do, because I was just sort of an independent sole provider with no employees. But from a banking perspective, I think the best way to prepare for a recession probability is to go a little bit lean and conserve liquidity, so that and maybe have your lines of credit in place so that you are prepared financially from that perspective.
Hi, okay, so for us, I am a small business owner, and we actually founded Empanadas in 2008, right as the Great Recession was happening. So we were in a unique position that we did have some available funding, be it on a personal credit card, which you're not supposed to do, to buy a food truck. And here in Austin, there was a plethora of real estate and parking spots, and there wasn't really even that much regulation, so we could pull up and, put a quarter in the meter. You can't do that anymore. But I mean, so what I'm getting to is like recession time is like, you just gotta be ready for anything. And I think that during COVID pandemic taught us all how to pivot and chasse all change, right? I mean, you just have to make it work. Trying to look down forecasts like, how is my business recession proof? What products can I provide people, when they're not spending money on the extra stuff? How can I really give them a good value proposition for the need to have, right? So, we make empanadas that are available in the frozen food aisle, and it's creating a restaurant-like experience at home, right? So that's kind of where my mind is with that.
So I agree. You need to be lean in your operations. You also need to establish on an ongoing basis some operating reserves. It's really important that you have those funds available, those lean times, and then you're gonna have to get your entire management team on board on what the future is looking like. You can be going different directions, or you can all be on the same track on how to save, how to conserve, how to streamline, how to be more efficient. And so I really can't stress enough the importance of your operating reserves.
Yeah, the benefit of being last is you could just say ditto. We have conversations with small businesses all of the time who are, concerned, worried about what the future might bring. I think that one of the other things that I would say is maintain those key financial principles in the event the government comes in with a program, some type of recovery program. We were able to put out about $450 billion in COVID relief funding, but there are so many small businesses who didn't receive anything because they didn't have the financial principles in place, right? They hadn't filed taxes, or they've been operating at a loss for so many years that, the SBA, although we are a government entity, we still have to make sure that we are not lending your tax dollars to small businesses that don't have the ability to repay. So I think that, in terms of recession, natural disasters, when we put on programs about capital ready, people tell us all the time, well, I'm not looking for capital right now. It's like, you might not be looking for traditional capital, but a hurricane or a flood or a tornado may be looking for you. So in the event that happens, you have to have these key principles so that when the SBA comes in, you can benefit from those products.
So I wanted to add two more items. Try scenario planning. What if? What if my business is going to grow? What if a tsunami happens, what if I lose some major accounts, do some scenario planning. And one of the things that worked for us during the Great Recession was a continuity plan. If indeed revenues went down, if indeed funding went away, how are we going to continue our operations? So a continuity plan is very, very important.
One of the opportunities I had when I had the show Economic Perspectives on KZI 88.7 FM was to interview Alden McDonald, who was the CEO of Liberty Bank and Trust, which he's been the CEO, I believe, since 1973. And it's I believe now they're the largest black-owned bank in the country. And I interviewed him after Hurricane Katrina. And that was an issue I found, very hard to deal with because I'm from New Orleans and just the devastation and the horrible things that happened. But when I interviewed Alden McDonald, I asked him, how did Liberty Bank and Trust survive? And one of the things he told me, and this is to go back to what I believe Rosa said, they had a contingency plan in place to deal with the hurricane, because if you live in New Orleans, it's hurricane season every year. It comes about. And not only did he have a contingency plan in place, but he said the year after Hurricane Katrina was actually the most profitable year in the history of Liberty Bank and Trust, because he had a contingency plan in place. So I'm going to ask the panelists, any thoughts and ideas you would give on how to, we say a contingency plan, but what thoughts and ideas do you have on how to establish a working model for a contingency plan? Any panelists?
You need to do it as a team with your management. It may be just two of you, and that's okay. But you need to assess the what if, like I mentioned earlier, we lose a major account. What would that do to our revenues? You need to actually do that work session, and then you need to come up with some solutions, some alternatives, and put that strategy in writing. In our situation, what if we had a tornado and our buildings were impacted? Where are our staff going to work? Well, guess what? We almost had a tornado impact our offices. What if one of our buildings flooded? Well, guess what? One of our buildings did flood. Where are our staff going to work? What is the plan in terms of how to continue our operations? What if our computer system go down? What if we got malware? What is the plan for that our computers are all locked and we're held hostage? There's a lot of reality factors that come into play. You need to do that exercise. You need to do it as a team, and you need to have it in writing. We had our contingency plan in writing. Who is going to be our spokesperson during some emergency situations? It wasn't going to be me. We had our marketing and PR person that was the only designated person to address the media or the public. We had very important other duties of where is the interim facility going to be if your business if your facility is impacted. So we had a plan for that. So I really want to stress to you that, collaborate as your management team, make some decisions, put it in writing, and then it's ready for when you need it.
I'm going to add to that in a different vein, but from a budgeting perspective, I think the way I always like to look at a business anyway is look at, what's our baseline of operating expenses, and then I look at what do I need to get there in terms of revenues, and so that might also work for contingency plans, is where are we going to cover that baseline of operating expenses.
For us, we like to think about maybe widening our sales funnel, and if we do lose a major customer, in our industry, everything takes so much longer than we'd like it to, right? So we have to already be on making those contacts, doing the sales work, so that if something happens, because people have contracts and people, restructure over at Amazon, you've got to be ready for that.
I want to shift the tone here because we have an incredible successful business with Panadas here, who went from having food trucks to being on the shelves of 400 stores. So in 2 minutes or less, how were you able to make that transition? Because scaling up seems to be the Achilles heels. When you're making it in small amounts, the quality's great, it's just you, your partner, you're there every single day, putting all your love into it. But what happens when you have to provide product for 400 stores?
So our story, my husband and I, we were dating, we were in love, and we had this huge idea of putting empanadas and frozen food aisles everywhere. Now, the thing is that we didn't know anything about food manufacturing, business, sales, marketing. We just knew that together anything is possible. And when you really believe that, that is the truth. And sure, we didn't know anything, but we'd figure it out. Okay, so that was in 2008. That was 15 years ago. We just had our 15-year birthday and whatnot. So, it's been very slow. Those first pictures of us are Cody and I rolling out the dough, very small batches, figuring it out. I would sell our empanadas to my clients at a Pilates studio that I taught Pilates at. Got feedback, very slow. And then being able to scale, really, we didn't have the availability to funding, so it was really more job creation, which is great, but that is a lot of hand work. I spent 4 years folding every single empanada, so I know. And then that'll get you to about 400 stores. And then, the question is, how can we keep the same amount of people but really scale our production? So as of right now, it's very exciting for us. We have a machine on the floor that will do that assembly for us, but that will still maintain, the craft and care that means everything to us for the quality of our product, right? If you can't stand behind what you're putting out in the world, what's the point? Because it's so much work, and it's got to be worth it. So in short, it's been a very long, laborious process, but we don't give up, and we still have a long way to go. But we have gotten somewhere on our tracking the mountain range, so to speak. It's not a mountain you're climbing; it's a mountain range you're traversing.
Kristen, can I ask you to emphasize it's a long and laborious process? There's no overnight success.
No, overnight success takes, 15, 20, 25 years. You have to be ready for that. And, if we didn't start when we started, I can't imagine starting now. So anyway, the best time to start is this, the moment that you can. And then, yes, the first year is all adrenaline. We were so excited when we made it to 5 years. And that's when I was actually really taking classes with the Economic Development Department, City of Austin, how to write the business plan, the accounting, the QuickBooks, because Chief Everything Officer, that is what I do. And it still really is. Yeah.
This question is for the lenders on the panel, and Administrator James, you can jump in if you want. So what advice would you give to small businesses in the audience on how to be prepared to get approval for a small business loan from you?
So we call it borrower readiness. You need to look at what you're going to offer as collateral. You're going to need to determine if you can pay back the loan amount that you're asking. You need to have your financials in order. A lot of people think, well, if my collateral is what I'm pledging, why do I need to guarantee the loan? You have to guarantee the loan. The business will guarantee the loan, and you personally, if you're a primary owner, will have to guarantee the loan. Those are pretty standard lending requirements. If there is some equipment you're going to buy or a new account that you're going to cater to or deliver to, how is that going to be efficient? how is that gonna help you scale? And then your sustainability, that's critical. You know, prove to a lender that you're gonna be sustainable, you're gonna be growing, and you're gonna keep your doors open.
Well, the standard package that we're looking for you to come in with is, like you said, be prepared with your financials. If you've been in business for 3 years, we're looking for 3 years of business tax returns. We're also, since you're guaranteeing, like she said, we're looking for 3 years of personal tax returns and your personal financial statement. Other than that, and that's kind of standard base set of information that I'm looking for. But whether you've been in business or you're a startup, I really like to see a business plan as well. And it doesn't need to be a 20-page one, because I'm not gonna read it. 20 pages. Something, fairly short and sweet, but that addresses who you are, who founded the company, who's the present ownership, what does your market space look like, how does your product or service compare to others, and then your financial plan. And so that's another real key within the business plan that I'm looking at. Again, whether you're a startup or whether you've been in business, is some projections. And, like for instance, if you're looking for working capital, I really want to see monthly projections so that we can see where that working capital need is. But also, so it's really good for me to know that you understand your P&L, your profit and loss, and that I see that in those projections. And the other important key to those projections is providing real context to them. Having good assumptions. If you're a restaurant, it's, you better be telling me what, your number of tables are, your number of seats, and your expected turn. That kind of detail goes into revenues, and then the same thing on the expense side, really detail out your payroll. So that, I really know that you have a good handle on where you're headed.
I would say go to www.sba.gov /district/San Antonio. But seriously, we offer all of the things that have been mentioned. Our lender relations specialists, we put on free courses to help you in this pursuit of capital. Joe back there at the SBDC, they do as well. So I would encourage you to contact your local district office. We have a new LinkedIn page at SBA South Central. All of our district offices have Twitter pages. Sign up to get alerts from them. Again, free courses. We talk about what does a lender want, right? We have lender roundtables. We have lender match events where we will put you in the room with multiple SBA lenders. So, connect with your local SBA.
And the SBDC, y'all here in Texas, it's amazing. We've done work with them with technical assistance to help you with the projections, with all that stuff that can be really intimidating. Look them up, and it's an amazing resource, so please take advantage of that.
Is Joe still here? Mm-hmm. Stand up, Joe. He runs the Texas State Small Business Association. And let me tell you, I was in a meeting, the first time I met Joe, I believe it was on Zoom, Joe, I don't recall. And what I learned quickly about Joe Harper and the Texas State Small Business Development Center is they truly understand small business. There are times when we have discussions with people and you say, they don't get it. They haven't walked in those shoes, they haven't sat in that seat. I remember I didn't go home for 2 years. My mother said, why haven't you been home? You live in Houston, 6-hour drive from New Orleans. I had a small business. I was working nights and weekends, sometimes sleeping in the office. So albeit, that was 36 years ago, 37 years ago. Once again, I was in elementary school, so let me be clear. I was 10 years old, running a small business. But it's important to have technical assistance providers like the local Small Business Development Center that actually gets small business. But there was a question that came up on the screen earlier today in our response to the issues that people are concerned about. And the question really, I'm going to start with Kristen. Attracting and retaining employees, what is the strategy for attracting and retaining employees, especially in the Austin market where it seems to be very difficult because the price of housing is so high that, if you're not paying, super high wages, then you're gonna have to live out further and further and further. So let's start with Kristen.
I would call it that we're still in the middle of the labor crisis. My industry is food manufacturing. We have the food truck and the trailer and catering. I do the demos in the grocery store myself. And we vend in large music festivals, ACL. We were just up at Stage 2 Step In. It was really so much fun. But folks don't show up to do the job. And it's not just us. It's across the industry. So, I have to think that there's something to do with the company. Just you have to have a culture where people really are committed to, and they're thinking more like owners as opposed to just employees. I think part of it, with the vending at ACL, it's 2 weekends, so in people's mind, I guess, I don't have to show up because I'm never going to see this person again. And that's unfortunate. I think that if you commit to showing up somewhere, you should do that. And on the manufacturing side, with inflation in the economy, then we've inflated our wages. Folks have to. I'm not in a business to make people can't pay their bills. Or one of our key employees, she just bought property, which is really exciting for us. She's worked for us for over 10 years, and to be able for her to feel confident that she can make that kind of purchase is awesome. She's also a part owner in our company. Folks that show up every day and they work to the bone for you. Everyone should be compensated in that. But I think that just the labor crisis, that is a real thing, and that's something that we all have to get real with.
All right, I'm going to pivot on that and say, so what should your strategy be if you were having difficulty getting labor? Is it the 1099 contract employees? Is it subcontracting out more to other businesses? What should the strategy be? Or a strategy that you think?
You can throw more money at it, and it does help, but there has to be something more for people to feel like they really belong. And I think we've created that with our manufacturing crew, but on the day-to-day one-off festival, it's more challenging. Yes, money is good, but also, sometimes it's not the most important thing to people. They're looking for compensation in some other form or fashion. But it's difficult for us because, here's the gig. The gig economy, right? And when you throw gigs open to people, but what if no one shows up? And so it's the owners, having to do more of the work, which is fine, but I do find it unfortunate and disappointing.
So we talked about business plans earlier, and I want the lenders to talk about how important is a business plan to you when you get it, and do you see it as a living document, or just a document?
It's alive.
Anybody?
Well, I call it a strategic plan. I really think gone are the days of a 20, 30 page plan that sits on a shelf. A strategic plan is real, it's alive, it can be flexible. And so a strategic plan is very important. We have our application process is online now, but we also have some prompts, some questions that go out to the customer. Talk about your strategic plan. Tell us what your growth plans are. Tell us how many employees you're going to add. How are you going to achieve efficiencies? And so it's really prompting those questions that if the business hadn't thought about it, we want to consider those options. A business strategic plan means that you are very, very conscious of what the next phase of your business is going to be. You know, it's not just, oh, here's a plan, I wrote it and here it is. It's a living, breathing document, and it's one that you should follow. We have a corporate strategic plan for 5 years. What I'm seeing across the industry, across America, is that strategic plans are starting to become 3 years. And not only that, if you have a 3-year strategic plan, what does this 1 year look like? So that you're looking at it very minutely and you're determining if your sales are at par with what you had and set out, whether you're meeting those business objectives that were important for your business to grow.
I don't think I really have anything to add to that on the business plan, but I did want to go back to the labor question. Because I've had lots of customers, small businesses that of course have been similarly affected. But I did want to say that I've seen some of their adjustments, so I wanted to share those with you. I've had some salons, hair salons, that have had a real issue, and I know some of them have gone to all contract versus having someone, have to report for work at certain hours. But on the other hand, I know one that's gotten even more innovative. She does it by staff person. They can either go contract or they can go employee and get health insurance. So being kind of totally flexible on what the labor force is looking for is one avenue. I have another customer that actually did move their operations out. They're sort of a warehouse distributor, and so they moved them out so that and made sure that they placed it where and had input from all of their staff and employees as to would this work for them and make it easier in terms of the housing market. So that's one other thing that I'm saying. And then a third thing would of course be the remote work and being flexible on that. And we've certainly seen such a change. I mean, even within my bank, which was, stayed conservative, but we've got remote work now, at least, part of the time. So it's been some very interesting changes.
How many of you out here are small business owners? Raise your hand. How many of you expect to win a big contract? Raise your hand. You want to win a big contract. Let's just say one. Everyone should be raising their hand. So here's the question. If you win the big contract, and it's going to take you 30 days to get paid, or 45 days to get paid, or 60 days to get paid. And so my question for the panelists, especially the lenders and SBA, is how do you finance contract, and what products do you have for a small business owner that wins a big contract? It's going to take a while for he or she or they to get paid, and they need financing to pay their labor that has to be paid every Friday, the material provider who's got to be paid within 30 days. What products do you have that could help them with this good news?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. As we talk so much about the infrastructure projects and all of these different procurement opportunities, our working capital products, we're seeing a huge boom in 7(a) lending, and you hear all these horror stories, and I'm not trying to act like times are just great, but the numbers suggest that our lending products we're seeing a significant boom. Our 7(a) lending product, which is our signature loan, I wrote the numbers down in fiscal year 21. About 8.6 billion. After Q2 in the federal government, we've already surpassed that at 10.4 with our community advantage lending program. So we are already surpassed the numbers that we were at last year. The SBA also has a surety bond program where those folks that are interested in government contracting, we have, just like our SBA certified lenders, we have surety partners that are going to, give that opportunity on, with the federal government guarantee. There are several lenders that have programs that are specific for those small businesses that want to do government contracting. States all across through another program, State Small Business Credit Initiative. There are so many opportunities out there. But again, in order for you all to take advantage of those, the sound accounting principles have to be intact. You not only have to have that business plan, but you also have to have a strong capability statement, right? You have to have the different certifications to prove that you can do that work. For some small businesses, getting the contract is probably, if they don't have those things in place, that can be the thing that ends their business. So when you talk about it, yes, it is exciting to get that government contract, but if you aren't ready, it can be the thing that really hurts your business in the long run if you don't have those key principles in place. So, you know, I would again encourage those capital programs that we have through our SBA certified lenders, our surety bonding, and those are the things that we have to do a better job of in our outreach, talking about the surety bonding component, because I know most folks, you know, if you do know about the SBA, you probably don't know that we have that surety bonding program and product in our disposal. So we will do a better job of getting the information out there and making sure that you're capital ready.
So BCL of Texas, we are a nonprofit lender. We're mission focused. Our mission is to help your business grow. We created a line of credit a few years back, and it's worked very, very well for our customers. And I'll give you an example. We had a customer that is an electrical contractor, and he won several contracts, and he has to perform church contracts, school contracts, commercial contracts. And so he reached out to us, and we started with a $200,000 line of credit. His business is growing so rapidly, and we take a contract as an assignment as my collateral. And so together, he and I chose the contract that would work for that $200,000. This year he says, Rosa, I'm growing so rapidly, I need $400,000. And because of the relationship, and I think that's real key when you're working with that nonprofit lender, because of that relationship we've established, because we monitor his interest-only payments, and at the end of a certain period, the note will mature, or we extend the term of that loan, or we could convert it to a term loan. But it's interest only, so you only pay for how much you've drawn down, and it's not a lot. And we're flexible enough to where, based on his payment history, because we draft the customer out of their payment bank account, we draft the payments on a monthly basis. Based on the payment history, then we were able to extend him that $400,000 that he needed. So that's been a very good product that we're using again and again.
I would tag on to what she said in terms of basically, you know, they started a relationship early, and that's good for any of you. You know, no matter how small you are, try to get to know your banker. You know, go in and say, I want a banker who's a lender, not just for the deposit account, because I want to get to know them and provide your financials, even if you don't need anything at that point in time, but that way they can get started with you. So I think that's good to get started early on. The other thing, just for y'all to know, and they kind of mentioned it, but SBA has a line of credit program called a CAP line. They have a line of credit that's not under the CAP line, that's more flexible, and that's up to $350, or up to $5 now, I think it's up to $500,000. And then anything above that can be financed with an SBA guarantee on a program called the CAP line. And they specifically have a program that addresses contract financing. And like Rosa said, they do take the contract as collateral. But so there is a program available within the SBA for financing that type of work.
Kristen, any lessons learned in financing the start and growth of your business, especially the expansion?
I think it's really important to have the financial fundamentals in place, your accounting software. You know, I mean, QuickBooks has come a really long way in the last 20 years or whatnot. You know, you have the capabilities to really do a lot of it yourself, but it's really important to start day one, take the time, take the classes, so that you have a familiarity and confidence with your numbers, because, you know, there's just nothing worse than waking up at 4 a.m., you know, just kind of wondering and thinking about your cash flow and doing it in your head. You know, it's, I don't suggest that for anyone. And so if you can start early, stay ahead of it, and really keep up with it, is very helpful, because when you show up to the lender, you actually have something to show them. You know, you've worked with the state Texas, Development Center, SBDC, you know, so, because to have that confidence and really to know your numbers is huge, right?
One of the things we've talked about today is growth. And so one of the questions I have for the panel is, how do you know if you're growing too fast? How do you know when to put the brakes on? How do you know when to say, no, that contract is not right for me?
Yeah, that's hard. You know, I'm a person that likes to say yes. So, but I have, you know, you'll make that mistake, and that's going to happen. But hopefully, it happens early, and it's not a huge mistake that you can learn from and move forward. Right? We're not all going to get it perfect, you know, right out of the bat or whatever. Like, the mistakes will be made. You have to learn from them, and just try not to do it again. But I think, you know, having a plan, having a business plan, having a strategy, and you know, so say like Target walked up to my door and said, "Hey, Kristen, we want to put you in 570 stores, you know, nationwide, and we've got this promo plan, and you know, it costs money to grow. So if you don't have that funding in place, then you just have to say no."
So, you know, the word that comes to me is capacity. If you know your capacity, then you know how much you can take on. If you don't have the capacity, you need to explore how to get it. So let me give you an example. During COVID, we got a $13 million contract, 3 contracts, total $13 million. And, you know, we had a very short window to deliver, like 4 months. How do you deploy that kind of money that quickly? And so we decided that we didn't have the capacity. We needed to add additional people, even though they were on an interim basis, and that's the way we hired them. You are interim. And then we were able to decide who we kept and who we didn't keep. But if we don't have the capacity, it doesn't mean you can't get it. There was enough money in the contract to where we could hire that additional staff. PPP also happened. We became a PPP lender because of our community advantage status. And again, we had to handle the volume of calls that were coming in, the processing, and again, it's about capacity. So the word that I've learned is how to expand and contract. We received $13 million of mortgage funding for certain markets, and we didn't have the mortgage team that we needed, so we had to expand, and then when the program was deployed, we contracted. So there's nothing wrong with having that as part of your strategy.
You know, I would say 2 things. Number one, just being honest with yourself, right? And not taking on more. And I know how hard it is to say no when those opportunities come. But the second thing, and I hear it a lot in some of our like 8A firms, don't shy away from partnering with other firms, right? I am around the table with some firms, and they're like, yes, we have a project that we're going after with this person, and we're working on something with this person. We also have, you know, joint venture programs, mentor protege programs. I think those are opportunities for you to be able to realistically go after those contracting opportunities. But you know, I know that there's this thing with small businesses about partnering with other small businesses. In terms of the government contracting piece for the type of work that I see, I would ask you to divorce yourself from that mentality and not be too fearful of partnering with another firm to go after some of these opportunities.
I'm kind of a numbers person, so the piece that I would look at, aside from all their very good points, is going back to those projections and your monthly cash flow projections, and really go in detail for this job that you're taking on, and itemize and cash flow those expenses on a monthly basis, how much is that gonna cost me when I add that labor? Or when do I need to make payment for whatever parts I need to order? And is that spread out, or do I need to make something up front? And then looking at, again, then the top side, the revenue piece. How long is it gonna take before I can bill? How long is the turn on that receivable gonna be? If you put all those into that monthly cash flow, then you'll see bottom line, oh gosh, I need a lot of money, to get this done. And then I go to my financing and say, okay, this is how much I need. So really be prepared for how much that need is gonna be and have that really identified.
Okay, we have a lot of time left, but I want to make sure that I give the small business owners, only the small business owners, opportunity to ask a question of our panel. Yes, sir. The mic is coming your way.
How you doing? I would like to ask a question about personal guarantees. So, as a business owner, you take a tremendous amount of risk just by starting a business. And then, when you want to take one of your beautiful products, at most times it requires a personal guarantee. Those products are required a personal guarantee because we're small. Medium-sized businesses don't use collateral on the personal owner. So my question here is, how do you minimize your exposure to personal guarantee in those kind of products? Because that's, in my opinion, the thing that deters people from actually using them. Because that can be, on an individual basis, a life-changing amount. Did that make sense? Did my question make sense? Personal guarantee, and how do we minimize the exposure from the business owner's perspective? I know I'm asking lenders, but still.
Well, you mentioned that you didn't think that medium-sized businesses had to provide a personal guarantee, and so I'm not sure which range we're talking about. And, I work at a community bank, but so I will tell you that every loan that we do, a 20% owner or more has a guarantee, and that's SBA or conventional. So I don't know if I have an answer for you. How to limit that exposure.
No, I know, I feel like it's a cost of doing business and business fundamentally, right, is, you say you're gonna do something and you do it, right? And so the way I look at it is, they're just asking for me to say that I'm gonna do what I said I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do it within this time. And I don't know, to me, it's totally understandable. And when you can, though, we're working with other vendors and stuff, not so much financial products, but, when you're purchasing things from distributors and that kind of thing, sometimes I think you can leverage your way out of it with like a good credit history, right? But a lot of the times they ask for personal guarantees as well. What's that?
So no, I agree. Regardless of the size of the business, if it's an LLC, a corporation, a partnership, a sole proprietor, personal guarantees are pretty standard. It means that you stand behind your business and you will honor that note. Whatever happens to the business, you will honor that payment. And so because we're mission lender, we're nonprofit lender, I have right now about 4 customers whose businesses have closed for several years now, but they're honoring the payment. And that means a lot. That means a lot to me. It means a lot to a nonprofit, because when we recover your payments, it means I can turn around and lend to somebody else just like you. So I'm not a for-profit bank. I don't have shareholders. My board of directors are volunteers. And so we really rely on those payments to be recovered so I can turn right around and lend to another small business.
Next question, and I'm going to ask you to keep your questions short. We only have about 8 minutes left, so we can get in as many as possible. Yes, sir.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for putting this together. Luis Delgado with the Critical Update. So my question, I don't know if it has an answer, but I'm curious to hear what you guys may have as far as input. I hire people here in Austin. The cost of living in Austin is insane. My cost of labor has gone like 30% last few years, which is not sustainable if your business is stagnant, right? Thank God we have great clients, we continue to grow, but, you know, I haven't been able to come up with an answer to address the cost of rent, the cost of housing for my staff. And I just don't see how, 3, 4, 5 years from now, I'm gonna be able to keep these guys in Austin with the way the rents and housing costs are going up.
All right, anyone else would like to take that?
Well, BCL has a sister company, Texas Community Builders. We own single family, we build single family, we own multifamily. So we know firsthand how much salaries can buy. The city of Austin passed a bond program, and I serve on the bond review committee for affordable housing. And there are a few developers in Austin that are actually getting bond funds to subsidize the construction, to subsidize the development, so that families at 80% of area median income can move in. The new number, I think, that is real critical, and I think we have to look to our city leaders and even our mortgage lenders, because banks have mortgage money, is instead of the traditional 50% area median income, 80%, I think that's gone. I think when we look at how to help your employees, we have to look at 120% of area median income to qualify for these mortgages. And it's really important that we raise that threshold, because we're Austin. And we should not be losing our residents to the neighboring towns. As much as I love the neighboring towns, we need our families to be close to their work. So I say that the answer is, let's raise the LMI, the low and moderate income, to 120%, and be an advocate for that, because we certainly are.
We have time for one more question. Person with the microphone, I'll let you choose. All right, I think whoever's, go ahead, she's going to Roger. We have time for your question too, and then and then we'll end there. Okay, go ahead, Roger. Brief.
Okay.
I can say that word first.
It's been mentioned a lot about numbers, curious, when business owners come to you, do you have people on staff who are confident with the numbers, or you have a listing of people they can go to develop a relationship to help them manage their numbers if they are afraid of the numbers?
SBDC. I can't stress it enough. They are there to help you do exactly what you're asking.
Small Business Development Center can provide assistance in preparing, I guess, the training to get your financials together, right?
City of Austin can do.
City of Austin, small, obviously. They may not invite me back to be a moderator again, because I didn't know it first. All right, last question.
Yes, I'd like to know a little bit more about the 504 program for 7A bills.
I'll get with you at the close of the program. Well, I'll get with you at the close of the program.
And I can reply.
And some of the lenders, I'm sure.
I'm a 504 lender, and so those programs are for commercial real estate. So if you're buying commercial real estate, please talk to your nonprofit CDC like us, or the bank, and say, I want a 504, because oftentimes brokers or banks will steer you to a different product. 504 is for commercial real estate. You can get a tandem loan, a bank and the SBA loan at certainly the SBA loan will be at a fixed price for as long as 25 years. The bank can't do that. Right now, I don't see a bank making a commercial loan for 25 years at a fixed rate. So 504 is perfect for that customer that's buying commercial real estate.
Yeah, that's true. We do 504 and 7A as well, and it is true that some lenders do steer towards the 7A because there's secondary market to sell, but we don't. So I'm also happy to talk to anybody about 504 lending.
Oh, and Jackie asked that we ask one more question through, so I just wanted to make you aware of that.
One more question. All right.
Oh, he's right there.
There we go.
Yeah, so my name is Ryan, I work with housing cooperatives, I'm actually a partner with the small business development folks here, and I'm coaching housing cooperatives, and this is a follow-up on a comment made by Chauncey about lending and guarantees. You require more than 20, owners with more than 20% to guarantee a loan. And so the state of Texas, if you incorporate as a cooperative, requires you to have 5 owners, and most of the co-ops I work with have more than 5 owners, even state, which means that there's no one that meets that threshold. And I was wondering how you would deal with a cooperative in that situation.
Well, SBA has a feature, and I'm not the SBA, but we do try and stay abreast of how something like that could be remedied. The feature is perhaps whomever is your full-time daily operations manager, because they have that, role, that might be an answer to providing a guarantee. And so it's real important to talk to and make your operations manager aware that at some point in time that may be a requirement of borrowing capital.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and brag about our time. When she put up the 10-minute sign, I set my timer, and we have 37 seconds left.
Thank you. Let's give our panelists again. Colton Hayes, Terry James, Rosa Rios, Cosby Wilson, and Kristen Fields. Thank you for taking time this morning to just give us those little nuggets of wisdom. And for that, we want to present you with a token of appreciation. And these gifts are from small businesses in Austin. Sue Patrick, who is an Austin legacy business since 1975. DeSuno Coffee on Weberville Road. The Paper and Craft Pantry on Springdale Road. Good and Sweet Cookies. Latika Soap and Delicia Chocolatiera.
Wow.
So thank you all. Yes, we try to support local even when we cater in our office. So we try to thank you. Now, we are not going to leave the audience out, so let's do our drawing. Get your yellow tickets out. Did everybody get a yellow ticket? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you didn't get a ticket. Okay, we have one hand over here. And a hand over here. Awesome. So again, we love local. So we have a Spice Lover gift box courtesy of Delicia Chocolatier. The gift box includes Latin collection chocolate truffles, Mexican hot chocolate bark, ghost pepper chocolate bark, pecan cayenne chocolate bark, and Salt Lick barbecue dry rub chocolate bar. Okay, shake it up, Greg. Let's see who gets that. Okay, take it.
Now I want you to pick my number.
All right.
All right. The number number 1714287. Last 3 digits, 287. Awesome, congratulations. All right, now, before you leave, I want you to take what you've learned and heard today and use that information. Also, my boss just told me to remind you, you have a survey that we'd love for you to complete so we can improve next year. And I want to remind everyone, all small business owners, our free, say it again, free classes this week. Go to smallbizaustin.org. Also, the Economic Development Department has launched a small business resiliency program. Yes. Through this program, we'll stabilize pandemic-impacted local small businesses through a 12-week training, peer support, and coaching program. And the application is now open through May 2nd. So again, visit smallbizaustin.org. And I just want to say thank you again for coming. I love the energy in the room. Let's make May, especially this first week, a great week for your small business. Learn something, implement, talk to our panelists, get their business card, overwhelm them, ask them questions. If you don't like numbers, they're here to help you. So, especially our creatives, I know you like to paint and music, but you need to maximize your revenue, okay? All right? Have a wonderful